again. So our buddy Joe Mendez sent me a message on Tuesday. That was he thought was a good topic to discuss. Sounds like something he might be dealing with owners of that. I deal with owners as well, with this kind of stuff, right? So he said, yo, hope you guys are doing well. Thought of a topic if you guys haven't discussed it yet. When dogs, mostly shepherds, leak in higher states of arousal, like thresholds before play, training sessions, etc. Solid question, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Josh, do you know what leaking is?
I don't know.
You don't?
I don't know what leaking is. That like, I don't know. Is that like where they excite pee? That's what it sounds like. Leaking.
No, it's not.
Okay,
that.
what's leaking?
Okay, so leaking basically is like when your dog gets into this ridiculously overstimulated state of mind and they start just like leaking vocalization. Right?
Oh,
like
okay.
we refer to it as leaking because it truly is like subconscious. It's not like the dog is just like rah, 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 like I'm like consciously like screaming and stuff like that. It's like this like
yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it's like that where they're like trying to keep it in, you know, but it's just like coming out. Right?
Yeah.
And how we handle it, right? This is a common thing we'll see, right? And this truly is, right, one of those things that is a breed-specific thing most of the time. Yeah. Obviously, you'll get your one-off, like, corgi that comes in that gets super overstimulated and then starts leaking and stuff like that. But commonly, working dogs that get themselves in these ridiculous, anticipation-driven, overstimulated states of mind are where you're going to see most of this kind of stuff the most.
Okay.
Right? Vinny does it all the time. Cade used to do it all the time, right? A lot of dogs do this, right? And when I was doing a lot of working dog stuff, right, when we were doing Mondio Ring, dude, every dog on the field was leaking, right?
Yeah.
You get them out there, and it's like before the attacks and stuff like that, these dogs would be like
pumped up,
you know, like pumped up, and you see like their whole body is shaking and stuff like that. And they're just like letting out these whines and whimpers and stuff like that, and then they're just freaking unloaded.
Yep.
Right. So that's basically what it is. Is typically it's anticipation driven usually, right? So it means your dog is predicting something really overstimulating happening, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And it's that leaking anticipation of that.
Yeah.
Right? And it's due to extreme levels of arousal, right? So how do we address this, right? Is the real question. And short answer is there's very little you could do. There's stuff you could do about it. But if your dog is notoriously a leaker, the only bet that you have for starting to work through these things is to look at the root cause of the problem, which is what are they anticipating that's really stimulating, and how do I reduce the arousal associated with the thing they're anticipating, right?
Okay.
So let's use a couple examples here, right? I'll use an example with Vinny, right? A place where Vinny leaks or used to leak a lot. Leak. When we would go to fields, right? Fields meant training for Mondio Ring.
Yeah.
Fields meant bite work. Fields meant go chase the chuck it ball. Fields meant high arousal things. So it's funny. I would take him for walks when I lived in Tremont, and I used to go play ball with him in Lincoln Park, right? And we would walk, and he'd be calm and chill and this and that. And the second he would see Lincoln Park, you would start to see his whole demeanor change, right? It would go from just like chill, relaxed, like calm and focused on the walk to like overstimulated as we got closer to it, you know, and then it started turning into barking and stuff like that because he knew he was just going to get to like unload on this ball.
Yeah.
Right? So when I was training for Mondio Ring purposes, I didn't care about it because I wanted that anticipation of working in going into that type of setting.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? After that, I wanted that shit to chill, right? So what did I do? I started walking him around fields and places like that and never letting the exciting thing actually happen until that anticipation got less and less and less and less and less until he started to see the contrast between us walking around the field or the park and us walking around anywhere else as close to the same as possible.
Yeah.
Right? Another place. When I take him to the facility, to this day, he gets ridiculously jacked up. And that's because when I first got him, the only time we would go to the facility is when we were training for Mondio.
Yeah.
Right? So what did we do? We started controlling that arousal by taking him there and not doing any of those types of things. And I'll tell you, that one to this day, he still gets really amped up when we get there. Right? There's only so much you're going to do to stop it. And here's the thing. You can't correct that out of the dog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is truly subconscious. conscious. And when they're in that heightened of a state of arousal, any sort of corrections that you're going to give for those types of things are typically going to jack the dog up even more, right?
Yeah.
So you got to just reduce that contrast a little bit, get them focused in on something that's a little bit calmer, and that will over time start to help the issue. Yeah. Other situations. I remember Krista with Doof used to see this all the time. Was since she got him as a puppy, she brought him and he played in daycare all day, every day, right? Yeah. And he's a well-bred, whatever kind of shepherd that he is, right? Yeah. And what happened was he started coming to the facility and just getting so jacked up. And if socials were running and he was in like a pen or something like that, he wouldn't be able to keep himself under control. He just started screaming, right? Like, right? Because he wanted to go out and start playing with the other dogs because he had this anticipation of doing something really high arousing.
Yep.
Right? So what did she do? She spent a couple of months with him where she brought him and just didn't let him go out in socials, right?
Yep.
And it didn't fix the problem completely, but it did reduce that arousal enough where it was more manageable.
Yeah.
Right? There are numerous examples of this that you could describe, right? But in a nutshell, your dog's favorite person comes over the house and you make them hold a bedstay, right? Yeah. And it's their favorite person because they get the dog so jacked up every time they pet them, right? My parents, right? My dogs, while they're holding the bedstay, are going to leak a little more than they usually do in that setting, right? So that is, in a nutshell, basically what that is. Now, one other thing with it, and we talk about this with leaking or vocalization in general. Let's say you're getting your dog to focus on something, and you're reducing the arousal associated with the thing, right? So you're doing your part to address the actual problem, and you're making your dog perform a task around the presence of the thing that would typically get them aroused. You wouldn't correct them for the whining or the vocalization on the bed, but as that leaking amped up and their vocalization got more and more and more, that's typically a telltale sign they're going to make a mistake in a minute and they're going to get out of position or break command. And then I'll correct much more firmly for that. Yeah. Right. And by correcting that more physical, clear, black and white mistake, they're able to comprehend that more and they're able to focus a little bit more of their brain on the thing you're asking them to do, which then will help to continue reducing the arousal.
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, so it's almost, just like an overstimulation in their brain because they know, like...
It's anticipation.
The anticipation.
The anticipation of something really, really exciting happening.
Yeah.
So you make that really, really exciting thing not happen as often, which helps reduce the anticipation of it, and then you hold them more accountable for the thing that you're trying to get them to do.
There it is.
And you could apply this concept to anywhere where your dog is extremely vocal, right? Get them to do something very clear, reduce the arousal association to the thing that they're getting stimulated about, and hold them firmly accountable for the thing you're trying to get them to do.